This episode of the Stardom Cast is sponsored by Puro TV, your one-stop shop for all your Puro DVD needs. From Stardom to New Japan, from All Japan to Ice Ribbon, as well as incredible box sets documenting the best matches of your favourite Japanese wrestling icons, Puro TV has it covered with new items added every week. And now, as a special gift to listeners of the Stardom Cast, Puro TV are offering 10% off. Simply go to puro-tv.com, use the promo code StardomCast at checkout and get 10% off your entire order. Once again, that's the code StardomCast to receive 10% off your entire order. The link to their website is in the podcast description. And now, on with the episode.
Hey, this is Kevin Kelly. Get ready for the latest episode of the Stardom Cast.
And welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined as ever by Matt Turner. Matt Turner, how are you in the with WrestleMania in the rearview mirror?
I am fantastic, Rob. I'm always great, always fantastic. Talk to you and the friends and family of the Stardom Cast. My WrestleMania weekend was fantastic. How was yours, sir? Were you able to catch anything? And other than WrestleMania, whether the 2 nights of WrestleMania, was there anything else that you were able to watch, like on the Independence or whatnot?
I've seen most of the Ring of Honor show. Obviously, with me living in Britain, it's honestly extremely frustrating time. But I managed to watch. I've watched all of night 1 of WrestleMania. I've watched most of night 2, including the puzzling booking of Snoop Dogg, who apparently is the strongest person in the entire WWE. Who'd have guessed it? And yeah, I've seen a couple of things from like the TJPW show. Nothing massive, but little bits here and there. But overall, I thought night 1 WrestleMania was fantastic. Night 2, from what I've seen, was good. Aside from, and I said this to you before we came on air, Snoop Dogg dropping an elbow that May Sakurai would turn her nose up at.
Well, let's put over Snoop Dogg for a second here. I'm assuming that obviously, if you haven't seen it, so Shane McMahon comes out, blows his knee out. Snoop Dogg calls an audible. Snoop Dogg is not a performer. So kudos to him, regardless of what you think of the elbow and his phenomenal rope running ability. Snoop Dogg, him and The Miz calling that spot on the fly after Shane McMahon, who's come back from 2 years, blows his knee out. So, kudos to them on calling that part on the fly.
Absolutely. And to be fair, completely agree with you. Why Shane McMahon was in the ring is anybody's guess, but obviously that's not the only thing that's come back in the WWE, has it, at the moment, with old Vince McMahon seems to be attempting to live out his villain persona and just lean into it now that he's got that sort of Lucifer mustache going on. And yeah, just seems to have sort of reasserted his control after all the controversy surrounding him. But I mean, we talked about this last week and how Meltzer had reported that Stardom were very, very close to signing both Io Shirai and Dakota Kai, and I believe there was, if I remember the story correctly, there was actually a deal in place for Dakota Kai before she was made a part of Damage Control. So obviously Vince has been in charge again for a week, and morale has taken a huge hit. So who knows? We may be seeing some WWE women's talent in Stardom sooner than we thought, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we shall see. It always seems like spring there's always crazy stuff going on. Last spring, we had the return of Kyrie. This spring, we have Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. And who knows what we'll see at the end of the year, or or if they release a grant, or we'll see this time next year. It always seems like every 8 to 12 months or so, there's always a huge news break or talent break coming to Stardom. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But we are talking about WrestleMania. And this is a Stardom podcast. But I do want to put over Io Shirai. I put Io over all the time. She's my all-time favorite female wrestler of all time. I did make mention on the podcast last week that I thought that match was going to go about 6 or 7 minutes, and Io would have about 30 seconds in the ring. To me, I thought she was far and away the MVP of that match. Just the way she was able to make Lita, who has had a myriad of injuries throughout her career, and bless her for still being in the ring, the way she was able to make Lita look really good and Trish look really good, and just get her offense in and knowing where she needed to be at all times. To me, with all 6 of those ladies, Io Shirai, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I thought Io Shirai was absolutely the MVP of that match.
You biased towards Io Shirai? No, come on, Matt. Talk sense. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you've got ring generals in there, such as Bayley, who is a phenomenal talent, criminally underrated, I feel, in the WWE, and seems to be, unfortunately, one of the women who was cut, apropos of nothing, from the Raw we saw on Monday. That and obviously cage matches it's not the best source for things like this, but it had a cage match rating of, I think, 0.55 at one point, which is just catastrophic, really. There's very, very few overall shows that are 0.55. I think it's gone up now to 1 point something, but yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, if we are allowed to take a little bit of a silver lining from it, then the potential to see the likes of Io Shirai in Stardom again is a very, very good one, and one that I'm very, very excited by. And obviously, not just for us, but for the women as well, who deserve the spotlight. I mean, there is a ridiculous amount of talent on that WWE women's roster. And if they get the chance to go to other companies and, show the world what they're capable of and have really long sustained runs, then it's got to be better for them than just sitting in the back or not knowing what's happening from 1 minute to the next. So yes, I'm being selfish when I say I'd love to see the likes of Io, the likes of Dakota Kai, the likes of Bayley. Definitely I'd like to see them in Stardom, but for them as well, because obviously morale, from the sounds of it, has gone from hero to zero in almost no seconds flat. So obviously we hope things get significantly better for them.
Yeah,
go on, carry
absolutely.
on.
And even if they don't, Rob, even if they don't come to Stardom, the Stardom roster is insanely loaded, sir. Insanely loaded.
Oh God, yes. I mean, obviously we're going to talk about the main part of our news today is the announcement of basically the full card for All Star Grand Queendom in the Yokohama Arena on the 23rd of April. So we're going to be talking about that and the absolute chaos that ensued at the press conference. But just looking at that card and the amount of talent that is sort of jammed into the top sort of 6, 7 matches is absolutely outrageous how talented this roster is. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts as well on some of the announced matches. But before we do that, Matt, what is coming up on our Patreon this week?
We released Monday your cure for WrestleMania hangover this past Monday. Rob and I released the very first match for Insane April. Kyrie teaming up with Meiko Satomura to take on the Goddess of Stardom champions. Well, they were at that time. Mayu Iwatani and one Io Shirai, Thunder Rock. We had an absolute blast calling that. Again, I've talked about it before. It's my favorite Kyrie match of all time. It's my favorite Stardom match of all time. It's just one of my favorite pro wrestling matches of all time. An absolute blast. Coming up this Monday, we will be our alternate commentary, will be Chelsea Green will be challenging Kyrie for the Wonder of Stardom Championship, and that was suggested by our good friend Joseph Usher from Patreon. Joseph, thank you for that that suggestion, and I'm excited to watch that with you. And that will be dropping on this coming Monday. Also, the homework is done for Kyrie Mae Young Classic win. That'll be dropping off sometime in the Patreon in the middle of the month. And at the end of the month, the review of Kyrie's World of Stardom Championship reign. That'll be there as well. Also, I will be, because with Easter coming up, I actually have some time off, believe it or not, Rob Goodwin. I'll be off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and I took Tuesday off as well. So the Sherry World of Stardom Championship reign will be released. That review will be released sometime in the month of April, and that is for all tiers, the 1, the 3, and the 5, as we get ready to march on to the fantastic new upgrades of the Patreon, which we've gotten so much positive feedback about. And I'm so excited for all the new stuff that we're going to be doing here. Also, I have locked down our next interview. We have not locked down an exact date yet, but I've locked down our next interview. And wait for this cheap plug, Rob. And if you want to know firsthand who we're going to be interviewing next, subscribe to our YouTube channel, because when I do the what's coming up next on the on the weekly thing that we post on the YouTube channel, I will be revealing who it is there. And it's somebody that's very near and dear to my heart, and if somebody that was not involved in professional wrestling. There'd be a lot of wrestlers that are currently making 6 and 7 figures right now that probably would have a little harder time getting there. So I will be announcing the great guy. It's a gentleman. That's the only thing I'm going to give give the spoiler on. It's a gentleman. This gentleman is a phenomenal storyteller. So yeah, I will be releasing that on the next YouTube what we have coming up video. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. It's free.
It is indeed free, and I'm very excited for this. Obviously, we've had a lot of positive feedback in terms of the Alison Danger interview, and we've acknowledged that obviously we know it's not hugely Stardom orientated, but when we're talking about tours of Japan and Japanese talent and things like that, and the stories that are told as well are incredibly fascinating, and I feel that this is going to be very, very similar. So make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Obviously it'll drop on Patreon as well. You'll get it a day early, same as the free podcast and ad free. And also make sure you tune in to our YouTube channel, as Matt's already said, where he will give his rundown of what we've got going on next week. And who knows where Matt is going to be when he does this. Will he be in front of his car? In his living room? Where will he be? Because that's half the joy of me doing it.
I don't even know. Like I was, and I think I even said it last week. I was like, well, I'm throwing a WrestleMania party at my parents' house, which was my childhood home, and back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was just about every Sunday we had people over there, because you had the WWE pay-per-views, the WCW, and then ECW ran 6 pay-per-views a year as well. So if it wasn't every week, it was like every other week. So last year was the first time that we got back together in my parents' house with a lot of my friends, and I talk about all the time. I'm so fortunate that my group of friends I've had literally since I was kindergarten, grade school, and I touch base with them constantly. So that's where I was going to do. I'm like, I'll do it right here in my parents' living room. I'll go to a quick shot of the party. And then it was like, you get there, you're talking to your friends, you really don't see that much. It's just life happens, married, move away, kids, yada yada yada. So I was totally gonna do it, and then I'm driving home from my I live an hour away from where my parents live. I'm about halfway home. It's like 12:30, and I was like, oh, son of a gun, I forgot to cut that promo. And I was like, well, I guess I'll have to do it Monday morning in front of my video game machine. So that's where that one was. But yeah, it's kind of half the fun. Like, where will I do it this time? So
make sure you check it out. That drops on a Monday night at 10 o'clock British Standard Time. But let's talk a little bit about the news coming out of Stardom. And obviously the big thing to come out of Stardom this week was that a press conference on the 3rd of April happened, where we got a far fuller picture of what is going to be going down at the Yokohama Arena. So what I'll do is I will read down the card that we have in place. There's a couple of X's, a couple of missing people that by the time we come to you next week, they should be filled out, and we'll be able to talk about those in a little bit more detail. So we have got the Yokohama Rumble. I imagine that is going to be either the pre-show or the opening, and the first participant of that is the Momo Nakanishi, who was in the Rumble at Budokan. We've then got an 8-woman tag with Natsuko Saki, Kashima Ruaka, and Momo Watanabe taking on the team of Mariah May, Xena, X, a mystery opponent who is going to be revealed on tomorrow as we record, the 6th of April show in Sendai, the new member of Club Venus, and Tekla. Just tagging Tekla in there as well, because why not? We've got a high-speed tag match, which is going to be heaps of fun. We've got Starlight Kid on one side and Mei Segura on the other side. Both of them have got mystery partners. Starlight Kids is less of a mystery because it's been announced. Her partner is going to be who was Mei Hoshizuki. Obviously, she did a brief stint in Stardom, had a great match with Azumi for the high-speed title. Her name has now been changed to Mei Seira, and she will be teaming with Starlight Kid. At the moment, we don't know who Mei Suruga's tag partner is, but I have an inkling, which I'll be sharing with you all later. We've got a tag match. Fua, who we've talked about before, she has got a mystery partner, and she's going to be tagging against the Queen's Quest team of Utami and Miyu Amasaki. We then move into what are considered our big matches, and there are 7 of them, just to show you how stat this show is going to be. We start with the Goddess of Stardom Championship match, 7-Up taking on the New Eras, Mirai and Amisori. Himika's retirement match, which is sort of not her retirement match anymore, but is. She's taking on Maika. We've then got the Artist of Stardom title match with Prominence taking on Kairi's team, and obviously we will talk a little bit about Kairi's team when we come to talk about the Korakuen show on the 2nd of April. We have got Syuri taking on Chihiro Hashimoto in singles action. An IWGP Women's Championship title match with whoever wins at Sakura Genesis, which is this Saturday as we record, Mercedes Moné, Azumi, and Hazuki. Whoever wins that match will be taking on the challenger, Mayu Iwatani. And then our top 2 matches, we've got the Wonder of Stardom Championship match, Saya Kamatani versus the challenger, Mina Shirakawa. And we have got Julia taking on Tam Nakano in the World of Stardom Championship match. Just before I ask you your opinion on this card, Matt, because especially the top of that card looks very, very tasty. I do have a feeling that in terms of the mystery opponents, I imagine Fua's mystery opponent, this is all dependent on whether Mercedes Moné retains at Sakura Genesis, which I do believe she will. I think, obviously, Fua has done a lot of training with Hazuki. It would make sense for Hazuki to be slotted in as that mystery opponent. And then, obviously, you've got Azumi, who with nothing to do if Mercedes Moné wins, I assume that she is going to be Mei Suruga's tag partner. Who X is going to be, obviously, we'll know by this time next week. But I'm intrigued to have... There's quite a lot of heavy rumor online that it's going to be the likes of Zoe Lucas. So we'll find out who that is. But Matt, in terms of a full card, how are we feeling about this huge Stardom show?
Looks awful. Oh my God. So much good wrestling. Obviously, I'm joking. This is, I really feel that this is going to be just a all-timer show, not just in Stardom, but like I think when this show's over, you asked me to write down my top 10 favorite shows, not unless this completely missed. This is going to hit. And I'm going to kind of throw a question at you, Rob. When we do our kind of star ratings, the Stardom Cast star ratings, if me and you were to combine our star ratings for this show, how many of these matches hit 8.25? What I mean by that is, like, say I give a match 4.25 stars and you give a match 4 stars. Because so that would be, if you're doing your math, that's 8.25. How many matches on this card hit 8.25? Because to me, it would be like every single one, the 5 championship matches, I think they're going to hit. Mike and Himika, Shirley's going to hit. Shuri and Hashimoto, Shirley's going to hit. That high-speed tag match, I think, is probably going to hit. And I think that there's a possibility, even the Utami match with Miyu, that might hit, because you got to think about it. Like, Utami's fantastic. what's her name? The celebrity. It's escaping my head.
Fua.
That's in the match. Fua Chan. She looked really good in her opening match. And if it is Suzuki, which I believe, see, that's the big problem, Rob. Me and you both believe it's going to be Azumi as one X and Hazuki as the other. So you know what that means. Not going to happen now. Not going to happen now. It's going to be a Grim Reaper or a super strong Stardom Machine or whatever. But I mean, if that's the case, we're going to get like Hazuki versus Utami in a tag match on this big show. So there's a possibility that match may even hit like 4 stars for us. So there's a possibility that there's 7 or 8 matches on this show that if we combine our star ratings, it's going to be 8.25.
I would be very surprised. In terms of in-ring, purely in-ring, I would say the only 2 really that I don't think will hit that mark are the 8-woman tag and the tag match. Say what you want about the Yokohama Rumble. It'll be a fun little trip down, memory lane, lots of nostalgia and things like that. I don't think it's there for in-ring quality, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think it's more there as sort of a celebration of Stardom's history. So I'm not sort of classing that match in that. But in terms of undercard matches, admittedly trying to get Tekla on the show by sort of throwing her into Club Venus is a bit odd. But aside from that, I mean, I'm so looking forward to that Goddess of Stardom Championship match, just because I know how many lariats and how many slams and how hard hitting it's going to be. And that at the moment is 7th from the top. Like, obviously, this is not a definitive running order by any stretch of the imagination, cards subject to change, all that sort of malarkey. But if you consider that on top of this, you've got the potential, the very, very heavy potential of Mercedes Moné versus Mayu Iwatani, this is huge. This is massive. I fully expect, if their 5-star Grand Prix match is anything to go by, Maika and Himeka are going to knock it out of the park. Absolutely. And then Chihiro Hashimoto is someone who has hugely impressed me. Her match with Mirai was fantastic, made Mirai wrestle a style she doesn't really ordinarily wrestle, which I'm a big fan of, and Shiori's just damn awesome. So that's going to be fantastic. Julia and Tam, what else do you want from that match? I mean, it's one of the biggest feuds in Stardom at the moment. And then Saya versus Mina. I mean, Mina is the person that everyone thinks is going to usurp Saya Kamitani. And it's probably the big demon at the moment from Saya's white belt reign as a whole. So you've got that entire story arc. Then you throw into the mix that you've got Prominence, who have put on 2 very, very, very good matches in their defenses of the Artist of Stardom belts, one of which we're going to be talking about later. And they're taking on Kairi, Natsupoi, and that mystery guest as well that we're going to be talking about later. There's no way this show doesn't hit. I've seen quite a bit of negativity towards the build to this show and the Cinderella as a whole. And we'll address that all as the podcast goes on. In terms of the build, could it have been better? Maybe a little bit. I think Stardom's sort of run afoul of having 2 back-to-back tournaments and then having this big show to build to as well. I don't think that has helped. However, pure in-ring quality, we said at the top of this show, this roster is one of the most ridiculously talented top-to-bottom rosters I've seen. There's basically
Ever.
95% of this roster. If they are given the tap on the shoulder to go in the main event, they can go. And it's unreal. And I fully expect that in ring, this show is going to be an absolute blinder.
Rob, obviously, and when we're reviewing the show in full, I think in 2 weeks, we'll obviously get more depth into it. Just off the top of your head with the Rumble, we're going to get mystery people. Is there, give me 2 or 3 names you think that we may get in there that's going to kind of pop like the diehard Stardom fans like me, you, and a lot of our listeners as well. Do you like one or not even 2 or 3? Give me 1 or 2 names that you think that'll come out that'll really kind of pop us.
As long as Kikutaro doesn't turn up, I'm happy.
That's exactly, yes. Yes.
I fully expect the likes Fukigen Death is definitely going to turn up. She's not on the card at the moment. Fully expect her to turn up as some sort of novelty item. If you're going off the Rumble at the Budokan and sort of who they bought in there, it was basically, who else was in there? So you've got Momo Nakanishi, who's in at the moment. Maybe Wakizawa could be in there. I think Unagi might turn up, might show up for that Rumble.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, there's three names that I'm kind of keep my fingers crossed, but I'll let you keep going before I think you'll probably hit them. But
oh, that's interesting. Oh God. Go on, who's yours? You tell me yours. Oh, Saki. Saki from Colors is probably going to be in it.
Oh, I was talking about like kind of legends that are pretty much retired. So Yuzuki Ayakawa.
Makes sense.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Yoko Bito.
Ooh.
And if this one happens, I don't even care if Kikutaro's in it. If this one happens, everybody will be so thrilled.
Matt Io's not coming.
Oh my God! Jeez. Wait, the name was coming right out, and you just cut me off like a Mariah Lariat. No, Arisa Hoshinki.
Oh, come on, that would be amazing. She's not. There's no chance. I'd love her to.
Oh, just because EO wasn't the mystery person that we all kept telling people it's going to be EO. Now you're 180 and soured on me, brother. Oh, man.
I must admit, though, I have got to stop doubting you. You called Mercedes Moné. You said she was going to come out of Wrestle Kingdom. You called who the Kairi mystery partner was going to be. So I'll let you take a victory lap for that later on. So maybe I need to stop doubting you. Maybe Arisa is going to turn up. I don't see it personally, just because I don't think they'll want to take in a bump. But even so, to see her again in the Stardom ring would be fantastic. It really would. But we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, we'll do a full preview of this show in a couple of weeks' time. Obviously, it's the 23rd, so just looking at the calendar now, it's the 5th of April today. So next week we'll be doing a Sakura Genesis review, obviously the IWGP Women's Championship match, and we'll be previewing the Cinderella Tournament finals. And then the week after, the 19th, when we record, it'll be the 20th when it drops on Patreon, the 21st when it drops for the free feed. We'll be doing a full preview of All Star Grand Queendom and reviewing the Cinderella Tournament final. So it's going to be a busy couple of weeks. And there's Golden Week, where basically me and Matt don't sleep for a week. So
2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be nice and fun. So obviously we'll talk about this card in a bit more detail in a couple of weeks, but that are the sort of the bones of the Yokohama All Star Grand Queendom show. But during the press conference, just absolute carnage ensued. It really, really did. The two big points I want to talk about are Mina Shirakawa, who dribbled basically printer ink into Saya Kamatani's face. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But the big thing coming out of it was the hugely fantastic image of a very bloody Tam Nakano being dragged up by the hair by Julia, who had just headbutted Tam until she was pouring blood. It added a layer of intensity that even this feud didn't have. But it does raise a question. And Matt, obviously you are a professional wrestler, and it's something that I am intrigued to know. Because you see the likes of Julia throwing shoot headbutts. Obviously, a big proponent of that was Katsuyori Shibata. Unfortunately, Shibata is also an example of when that goes wrong. Now you look at more worked headbutts. I know this isn't a thing we want to talk about. We want to talk about how cool that visual was, but I am really intrigued. Like, where do you stand on shoot headbutts in matches or wherever because obviously with what we know now about concussions and about, taking that Shibata story, who came back over the weekend and won a bloody title. The man, we didn't know the man was going to pull through, and he's now the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, and we have the chance of a Shibata versus Danielson match. So just let that sink in for a minute. But where do you stand on that?
And I was early in my career, I was a big fan of throwing like these shoot headbutts. As long as my opponent was okay, I would never do anything that my opponent didn't want to do. As long as he was, that person I was in the ring with was okay with it, I would do them quite a bit up until, you get all those concussion things that came out, 13, 14 years ago and whatnot. There is a way to do it where it looks good and it's kind of safe, where you have your hands on the guy's head and basically you're almost you're kind of headbutting in the middle of the top of his head, but a lot of the blow is taken off by your hands. When I do see Julia and a lot of these Stardom wrestlers doing these quote unquote shoot headbutts, they're not doing it full Shibata style, which we've seen, the Shibata Ishii matches, the Shibata Goto matches, where their hands are down. I mean, their hands are by their hips. But I've noticed in these Stardom matches, especially Julia, who's basically like working this Kira Hokuto, Naomi Toyota, like just breakneck style. But it is a lot safer than most people think, just because of where she has her hands. And it's trust me, it's ringing whoever's bell, whether it's Tam or whether it's Mayu Guki, or whether her and Sherry. It's it doesn't feel comfortable at all. But by no means is it concussion city like we saw with Shibata doing it with Nakajima. Again, Ishii, Goto, and obviously the big one is the Okada one at that show. That was his last match for X amount of years. So not head trauma. It's one thing, you hurt your shoulder, you hurt your elbow, those things that are kind of, you kind of heal. You can't heal your brain. You only have one brain. So you really have to take care of that. Even like chair shots to the head. I cringe when I see people taking chair shots to the head. I can understand if someone wants to get their hands up last second to create the visual, that's fine. But there's no amount of money or nothing that big and important a match where if somebody says, "Yeah, I want to do a chair shot to the head." I'll take a chair shot, but I'm either putting my hands up or you're gonna put it to the back, because it's just not worth it. I mean, so yeah, that's my stance on that. Again, if people want to do it and their opponent's okay with it, more power to them. But the way that Julia does throw it, it is a lot safer than most people think.
Okay, fair enough. In that case, let's talk about the absolute chaos of this bloody press conference. I mean, where do you even start with that red belt one? I mean, there was such fury and anger from both parties. Obviously, Julia sported this forced new haircut at the hands of Tam, but there was legitimate anger there, and it was a shoot to the point of it almost being uncomfortable, which was fantastic because it adds yet another layer to this match. I mean, I've seen people, pardon me, on social media now who've said that Tam has to win now. You think of that image of a bloodied Tam with the red belt above her, so of her looking up at it, beaten, and, what a fantastic story out there. I don't personally think she will. I think Julia is going to hold on to it forever and a day. But it's added a lot. It's added that intensity, that fire. And what it's done is, you saw what Julia was able to do in a hate-filled match against Mai Yukihi. Imagine what she's going to be able to do with the history and the heat that she has with Tam. They've reignited what was basically a stone-cold feud. They'd had their match in the final of the 5-star, and that was it, okay? We've sort of blown off that feud. It's Julia time. And now we've reignited it, but we haven't just reignited it with a cigarette lighter. We've reignited it with another stick of TNT. I mean, it's gone up, and I love it, because even if Tam doesn't win, it's going to be a phenomenal match, and people are going to want to see how this one ends.
You have to, and again, this is subjective, but in my book, if you look at the 4 big singles matches that these two have already had, they had when Arisa had to vacate the title, it was the finals. Julia won. Okay, great match. They had a rematch about a month or so later. Julia won the rematch. In my opinion, that rematch was better than the first match. Then they go and have what we thought was going to be one of the blow-offs, the hair versus hair match in the main event for the Wonder of Stardom Championship at the Budokan. To me, that match was the best of the 3. And then we go to the finals of the 5-star, my opinion, and I know you'll probably back me up on this one, partner. The greatest 5-star match of all time. That was the best of the 4. So what I'm trying to say is these matches between the two progressively are getting better, and the stakes are bigger on the line. You have a vacant championship, then you have a defending championship, then you have the championship on the line at the main event of a historic venue with hair versus hair. How can it get any bigger? Oh yeah, the chance to win the 5-star and main event Dream Queendom. How do you get bigger than that? I mean, look at the layers of this match. You said it perfectly, my partner. A stick of dynamite might have been the whole entire case of dynamite. It's like, if you tell me, Matt, hey, we're going to get a Tam versus Julia match, I'm in. Hey, guess what? It's for the red belt. I'm in. It's on the main event of pay-per-view. I'm in. It's on the main event of the biggest show in the history of the company. Okay, I'm in. It's going after the dream match of Mayu versus Mercedes, which I believe that's going to happen. I'm in. Oh, by the way, Tam is cutting these crazy promos, screaming and ranting and yelling and having one of the greatest promos in the history of the company, trying to cut Julia's hair. Okay, Rob, I'm in. What else you want? Oh, by the way, they're going to have a press conference where they're going to use blood, and a company that they very, very use blood. And Tam's going to get the crap kicked out of her, and she's going to be laying there covered in blood. What more can you? And I even said when Tam challenged Julia, I'm like, it's kind of cold, isn't it? Like, you just kind of came out of nowhere. She hasn't had a singles win. They haven't really been doing too much with her on the past handful of months, ever since her and Natsupoi lost the Goddess belts. But like, okay, it's going to be a great match. And all of a sudden, it was just like, oh, just wait till you see how we build this. And I'm like, this build is absolutely fantastic. And I fully expect for this match to be their best match ever. But I don't know how they're going to be able to top the last two. But they kind of have to, do they not?
You feel that they have loaded this, that it's got to be a definitive win in some way. You feel like if Tam loses, there's no way back for her anyway, because of, she lost at the 5-star, she lost before Budokan. She's already, I think, either 3-1 down or 2-1 down in terms of singles matches to Julia anyway. If she loses here, she hasn't really got a leg to stand on to challenge again, certainly. In order to top that 5-star match, which was an absolutely fantastic match, I feel like you are going to have to make it some manner of no DQ match, where anything goes. Like, you can do whatever you want to each other, but ultimately, I suppose that was what that Budokan match was.
And the Sherry title match where Julia took the belt, because they were kind of like relaxed rules, and I think it's going to have to be. I'm not going to say it's going to be that good again. That's one of my all-time favorite Stardom matches, but it's a possibility it can kind of reach that level. But yeah, I think there's got to be one where the ref is just like, it's the main event of the show. I'm going to be able to let them bend the rules a little bit.
I'm intrigued by this Saya and Mina match. And the reason I'm intrigued, obviously we spoke about this before. We talked about, Saya having that. Mina's that skeleton in the closet, isn't she? She had that match. She was injured with the failed Phoenix Splash. She hasn't used the Phoenix Splash since. This match is going to go one of two ways. Mina is going to win, or Saya is going to win with the Phoenix Splash. Those are the two outcomes here. Now, at the press conference, Mina sort of playing mind games with Saya and then spat that ink in her face. Now, to me, that teased the return of her sort of Dark Angel gimmick. Pardon me, her alter ego, which, in my opinion, if she comes out as the Dark Angel, I don't think that's necessary. I think she's just she's in the process of splitting off from Cosmic Angels. She's returned after this injury, and people are really, really, really into Mina. People think that she is taking the white belt. What I don't think you need to do then is change the character again heading into this show. It's very similar to the Haruka Umesaki and Karma dilemma, where people want to see Haruka Umesaki wrestle, people don't want to see Karma wrestle, despite them being the same people. Now, I'm not actually down that much on the Dark Angel gimmick, or I think it's the Bloody Angel, actually, not the Dark Angel. I think she was unlucky in the match against Tam when she had a bell rung. And I think she was unlucky against, I believe it was Mirai, where something went wrong in that match as well, I think. However, here, I don't feel like Twisted Mina is needed. I feel like this just needed to be Saya and Mina, and Saya sort of battling herself. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, it's kind of almost like a step back. If it's not broke, don't fix it. It's a cool visual. The Bloody Angel, I believe the Dark Angel was Sarah Stock, who I believe is a coach in AEW. So that's maybe where you're getting it from.
Maybe.
Anywho, considering the fact that she was like 0-2 in big matches in that gimmick, where she's been on a roll going into the 5-star and up until now. So I don't think you need to change. I think it was just something that they wanted to do to kind of ramp up the intensity going into their feud, considering the fact like, oh yeah, by the way, Julia is going to bloody Tam, and that's going to be the last image, and Tam's going to roll up Julia's going to roll up her sleeves like she's some sort of Don boss getting ready to finish the job. So I think it's just something that they had to add to it. If you remember, I think it was Tam, and sometimes on these press conferences they do weird stuff that you're just like, are they going to add that in the match? And then they don't. I think it was Tam and Natsupoi was like, I think Tam slammed Natsupoi's head in the face of spaghetti, and they never used it again. It was just I did text you yesterday. I'm like, can we talk about this wild press conference? It's on the notes. I'm like, this was just crazy, and this was just a handful of hours after WrestleMania. So if you didn't like the ending of WrestleMania, you probably damn sure love this press conference, because it was a hoot. Holy jeez. But yeah, I don't think we're getting that. I hope we don't. Again, I would have no problem with it. But I think it's just like, it seems like when she's this bloody angel character, she comes away empty handed in the biggest these big matches. And this is the biggest of, this is the biggest match of both their careers, really. I mean, you're thinking Mina, for her to unseat, the all-time record holder for that belt in the biggest show of the year in front of the biggest crowd that they're probably ever going to draw. And it's kind of a big deal. I think Mina should just be, if not broke, don't fix it. Take to the dance what brought you, and that's just regular, just kick-ass Mina. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I didn't even think about that, partner. So I guess we'll find out when she comes out at the at the show in the Yokohama Arena.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the elements of sort of crazy Mina you can add into her character at the moment. She's far more strike heavy. She's far more aggressive in her overall sort of setup. So I think you can certainly add that extra aggression in there. I just don't feel like the aesthetic change is needed, and the sort of demented thing that she goes for with the bloody angel. However, that might just be me. I'd love to hear everyone else's thought on it though. But overall, I am massively excited for this Yokohama show, because as I've already said, in ring, those last 7 matches especially are going to be absolutely fantastic. And again, obviously not next week, but the week after, we'll be here with our full preview alongside our review of the Cinderella Tournament finals. We've got 2 matches. This is the last bit of news. We've got 2 matches announced for the next installment of New Blood, which is New Blood 8 from the 12th of May, which is a Friday. 2 championship matches. The Future of Stardom Championship match. We've got Ami Sourei taking on the challenger Rina. And it is the first defense for the New Blood Tag Team Champions Starlight and Karma as they take on the challenger team, of Lady C and Hanako. So that is going to be free and live on YouTube the 12th of May. So make sure you check that out. Anyway, let's move into the 2 shows that we are going to be looking at today as we head towards the end of what can fairly be described as a surprising Cinderella tournament. Before we go into the second round matches from Saturday the 1st of April, I'm intrigued to know what you think so far of this tournament. Obviously, we're now down to the final 4. We'll know the Cinderella Tournament winner on the 15th of April in Yoyogi. Let's call it Yoyogi. To say that we don't have any big hitters left, I think is a fair summary. Are you disappointed with the Final Four? And we'll go through the Final Four once we've gone through the Korakuen show, but I'm just intrigued to know what your thought is, Matt, on who is in the Final Four, how people have been eliminated, why they've been eliminated, because I know overall I've seen quite a lot of, again, negativity about the way that this tournament has panned out. Who is in the Final Four, with the exception of one person who is the overwhelming favourite if you look at the poll on the We Are Stardom Twitter page. I'm just intrigued to know, obviously you are a very positive person. I'm intrigued to know what your overarching thoughts are towards it.
Real quick, Rob, before we get into that, I just want to give kudos to Stardom World for getting up we always bag on them from them taking 3, 4, 5, 6 days. The fact they got these matches up in mere hours so we can watch them WrestleMania week and not be spoiled. Kudos to them. So let's turn it around, for once, and we're going to give them the nice applaud golf clap for being able to get these matches up as quick as they did. So awesome. But to answer your question, good sir, yeah, it's I'm assuming that Lily does not owe anybody any artwork for the Final Four. I'm sure you have not looked at it, but I have a feeling that I will not be mailing out a lot of T-shirts and and stickers as well. Not unless you want them, and then we can come up with a different way. But anywho, we briefly, because we went so long last show, so we kind of touched upon it when we did our alternate commentary of the first match from Insane April. That morning, that Sunday morning, when me and Amber were getting ready to go to church, I was telling everybody who's eliminated. She said, "Well, isn't there a Korakuen Hall show and a pay-per-view they have to draw tickets for? How are they going to draw without those names?" And I'm watching the Korakuen show, and I was like, "Wow, there's a lot of people there, and there's no big names for the actual Cinderella." And then I found out earlier today that actually it was Darren Chatton who always gives me the numbers, saying that it was a sellout. It was a full house, full bake. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's one, maybe people already bought their tickets in advance because it was Cinderella. 2, the side matches were stacked. Or 3, maybe because we talked about how stacked the Stardom roster is, that regardless, people are still want to pay to see these quarterfinal matches. So I'm interested to see, they're going to have to sell a pay-per-view for $35, $40 or whatever it is. And they're going to have to sell tickets to this venue, with the Final Four being Mai Sakurai, Waka, Ami Sohrei, and Mirai. And no disrespect to them. All 4 of those ladies are fantastic. The Waka storyline is amazing. Mai Sakurai, we talk all the time, is improving leaps and bounds show after show. Mirai is fantastic. Obviously, she won the Cinderella last year as a proven main eventer. And Ami Sohrei is not too far behind Mirai in that aspect. But it's not a Utami, it's not a Tam, it's not a Starlight Kid, a Hazuki, anybody that we've had, me, you, and our significant others, or a majority of the people, have pegged for a Final Four. And I think that's why my Final Four was so loaded, is because they're going to have to try to sell. I don't know what that building seats, but they always, on these pay-per-views, they always want to draw well over 1,000 and draw pay-per-view numbers and try to get more people to subscribe to the YouTube channel and to subscribe to Stardom World. So I'm interested to see what the draw is going to be for the show, because I was thinking, well, you're going to need a white belt and a red belt match. We're not going to have that, because in 2 weeks afterwards, we have those matches set. So you don't have a big title match really to lean on, because they have everything bulked up for the Yokohama show. But to answer your question, Rob, I am intrigued and excited, as much as I would like to see Hazuki versus Shuri on one side and Tam versus Mina on the other side. I'm intrigued because this Waka story, it just keeps getting better and better. Mai Sakurai, I guess she's a heel because she cut a really, really heel skating promo Korakuen Hall on all the men in Korakuen Hall. I was like, wait a minute, you have Julia, who's like, the it thing in Stardom. Everybody loves Micah. Himika's retiring. They loved her to begin with. So Tekla's, she's awesome. All of a sudden, Mai Sakurai, we'll get into it. Mai Sakurai's like yelling at all the old men. I was like, wait, so now you have this completely different character. It's like, well, do they push her so she wins it? Because they just completely gave her this character, and she got to win over Julia in the first round. Is it going to be Waka who continue that story? Do they give Ami Sohrei the rub? Do they have Mirai go back to back? I have no idea, but I'm really intrigued by it. How about you, buddy?
Look, I think we've been spoilt the last couple of years with our winners. I mean, just looking back on the last couple of years, Mirai was sort of a shocking one, and obviously she's only been in there a year. So taking that out, you've got Saya Kamatani, who just had a red belt match. You've got, and just failed in the white belt match. You've got Julia, who everyone knew was basically going to win it and be the next huge thing. And you've got Rissa, who won it before that. I think we've
and
been...
Momo before that, Tony Storm and
Exactly.
Mayu.
But
yeah.
I feel like we have been spoiled with winners. I feel like what they are going to try and do here is elevate a new star. Now, if they're going to do that, that's fine. And, I'm all for that. Much as I think Mai Sakurai's improved, and I have no issues saying how much she's improved, she's unrecognizable from the clunky performances of Cosmic Angels, or when she was in Cosmic Angels, should I say. I've got a horrible feeling she's winning it, and I just don't think it's going to get over well. And we might as well get into it now because we're talking about it. We'll talk about the actual shows in a moment. I've got the card up for the Cinderella Tournament finals this year.
Ooh.
And I want you to... I'm going to read the card out from this year, which is Sunday, the 15th of April, 2023. And then I'm going to compare it to last year. Now, obviously, I know that the big discrepancy is that last year they didn't have a pay-per-view to build to. However, Stardom are in charge of their own scheduling. And you can guarantee that this Cinderella Tournament final is going to be a pay-per-view. So I want just a yes or no answer, Matt. Is this a pay-per-view worthy card? Are you ready?
Go ahead. Are you ready, sir? Because I'm excited.
Born ready. Let's do this. Singles match. Aya Sakura versus Hanako. 6-woman tag team match. Mariah May, Xena, and the Mystery Club Venus person versus Hazuki, Koguma, and Momokogo. 6-woman tag team match. Mayu Iwatani, Saya Ida, and Hanan versus Nene Takahashi, Yu, and Yuna Mizumori. There's a 10-woman tag team match which pits all of Queen's Quest against all of Oedo Tai. You've got Himika's final Donna Del Mondo match and a Yokohama preview 8-woman tag team match, which is Julia, Tekla, Micah, and Himika versus Tam Nakano, Natsupoi, Saki, and Mina Shirakawa. You've got a singles match, Syuri versus Konami. And then you've got the 2 tournament semifinals, Waka Tsukiyama versus Mai Sakurai and Mirai versus Ami Sourei. Now, Matt, yes or no, one word, is that a pay-per-view level card?
No. Oh my God, it hurts me to say. I love Stardom so much. And it does sound like a good card on paper, especially with Syuri versus Konami. But if this is going to be a pay-per-view, which we're pretty sure it's going to be, don't you think they should have put the Micah and Himika versus Syuri and Julia match on this card? Right? Right? Like her last
and the Saki
match?
Why is the high-speed title match not on this card?
Oh, yeah, that's right, because we have that book too. Oh, man. Stardom, I love you, but I don't know. Again, what do I know? Man.
They've got a 10-woman tag team match with Queen's Quest and Oedo Tai. Take one person from each team out, make it an 8-woman tag, and then have Azumi versus Saki on the card. Have ALK versus Micah and Himika on this card, and that instantly elevates it. To me, this is a Korakuen show. This is not a pay-per-view level card at all. Now, if you compare it to the final last year, and this was Outer Ward City Gym on the 29th of April, and it drew 2,017 people. You've got, obviously, the Cinderella Tournament finals, which was Koguma, Hazuki, Mirai, and Natsupoi. You would got a Future of Stardom Championship match. You'd got a High Speed Championship match and a Red Belt match on top of the actual Cinderella Tournament itself. Now, me personally, I look at the Korakuen Hall show the day before on the 14th, and parts of that look better than the pay-per-view. Now, obviously, we are getting extremely spoiled with this Yokohama card. This Yokohama card is going to be fantastic. However, because of where they've scheduled the Yokohama show, am I right in saying, please feel free to disagree with me, Matt, do you feel like the Cinderella tournament has suffered because of where the Yokohama show is?
I think it has. It's almost like taking second place, and I kind of understand that. I mean, I think any card would take second place to what they're doing here. I think they don't want to give anything too big away, and they may think, well, this would be a good way to take somebody on the lower tier of the card and elevate them, whether it be a May Sacker. I think it's good. I mean, obviously, we'll get into it more next week. As you're asking me this, as I'm thinking right now, I think it's going to be Waka that wins it, but I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if any four of these ladies at this point. How can you not? Yeah, it just seems like not only that, but then the year before you had Sai and Mike in the finals, and then you had Shiri and Utami. So it's like, it's not like it is. It really feels like they're kind of just shoehorning it here. And I'm just really interested to see if they draw over 1,000 people for this show. You said they did over 2,000 for the finals, where you had a really kind of hot four wrestlers going in, and then you had all those championship matches as well, where you don't have any of that. You don't have any of that. And again, it'd be one thing if you had all these matches, and then you had 3 or 4 really, and that's no disrespect to Mirai, Amisori, Waka, and Mai Sakurai. I mean, out of the 4, you could say maybe Mirai's a main eventer. I mean, I think she's proven that with her match with Saya Kamatani for the Wonder of Stardom Championship back in last summer. But other than that, you really don't have a really big star. Like, I'm talking, no Mayu, no Julia, no Tam, no Mina, to really kind of draw to see who's going to win the Cinderella tournament. So I think this card has absolutely suffered from it. But the Stardom brand being as hot as it is, I would not be shocked, Rob, if they draw over 1,000 people for this show.
I agree. I think Stardom is hot at the moment, as proved by that Korakuen attendance, 1,295. It's the 3rd biggest Korakuen attendance for Stardom post-pandemic. Look, I like the idea of using that Cinderella tournament to elevate someone who's not in the main event, to give them an opportunity. I think that's a really good use of the tournament. However, for me, and I love Stardom, I want to put that out there, I love Stardom. I write books about Stardom. I love Stardom. But I
hope so. If we're doing this podcast together, buddy, we're gonna have a talk, young man. When your mother gets home, we're gonna have a talk.
I hate being negative, and I feel like I am being quite negative. But ultimately, I feel like, we're a podcast. If we were just blindly optimistic about stuff, I don't feel like people would want to listen. I feel like, we need to be truthful, where I don't know, it just seems very slapdash, and I think it's the way it's been structured as well. You had an 18-match card for that first show, which was exhausting. 18 matches, and 5 of them finished with double eliminations. And you think about who went out in that first round. Almost every single big hitter, with the exception of Syuri and Momo Watanabe. And maybe Tekla.
Tam, come on. How dare you? Tam, baby. How dare... What a troll. Folks, the Stardom cast is over. This is it. We're done. How dare you, sir?
If you'd have got a Final Four of Waka, Momo, Tam, and Sayurida, for example, okay, you've still got those 2 underdogs in Sayurida and in Waka Tsukiyama, but you've still got those 2 higher up stars in Tam and Momo.
Not only that, Rob, but how Waka being the ultimate seller and underdog, how awesome would it be her just eating kicks for 8 minutes and then rolls up Momo, plays with Lou? That psychology would be genius, right?
That's basically what happened in a match with Saki at Korakuen. Just ate a load of kicks and then rolled her up. It was great. Overall, I just feel like just all of the scheduling has been wrong. The problem that they've had is that in 2021, God, are we in 23 already? It's mental.
Yes, we are.
In 2021, you had the Budokan show, which was at the start of March. So it was prior to the Cinderella tournament. In 2022, you had World Climax, where you had both nights, and both nights were before the Cinderella tournament. Now, because the Yokohama show was fallen after the tournament finals, it's taken a backseat, and you can tell. I think it's taken a backseat to this. I think it's suffered because we've just come off the back of a very, very long Triangle Derby. And I think if Stardom are going to do this again, it tends to be now where they do this big show, either in March or in April. I feel like you need to structure it or book it. And obviously, I have never booked anything like this. The chances are this was the only time they could do the Yokohama show. In which case, they needed to start the Cinderella earlier, but they couldn't because they'd already booked the Triangle Derby. And sometimes, and this has been a common criticism of Stardom, is that sometimes less is more.
Mm-hmm.
But putting a positive spin on it, I love the fact that they are trying to elevate Waka, May, and Amisori especially. Let's not take away from the fact that they are in a tournament semi-final and having a pay-per-view built around them. Because ultimately, I completely approve of what Stardom are doing. What a chance for someone like an Amisori to win. What chance for someone like Mei Sakurai, who was improved and changed so much, to then have this legitimate opportunity to have the white belt or red belt match. I just feel like rather than trying to build it around effectively 4 new members of the roster, because Mariah only debuted a year ago in Stardom, I feel like they could have done 2 with 2 more established stars, because then you've got the mix. I think they've just gone too heavy with it. But, and this is the big question, Matt, who have you got winning?
Yeah, and obviously we'll preview that next week. And here's something else too, real quick, and then we'll kind of get off this because again we got to leave some of that for next week. But even you have the opportunity of Mirai going back to back, and there's only been one other wrestler to go back to back and to win 2, and that's the Icon. So the fact that she's flirting with that, and that's a story going into as well, that's kind of intriguing. But to kind of just piggyback off what you said, where maybe sometimes less is more, I think Stardom has been on such a roll, especially 2021. And speaking of 2021, there's a book that came out in 2021 called Stardom, Living the Dream, 10th Anniversary in Review by my good friend Rob Goodwin. Everybody should go and definitely get it if you have not. And then you didn't think they could improve anymore in 2021. And then in 2022, and I've said it on this podcast a zillion times, and we'll die on this hill. It's not only the greatest year of that company, it's one of the greatest single years in the history of any wrestling company ever. Whether you're talking about WWE, WCW, NWA, Ring of Honor, All Japan, New Japan, it's one of the best ever. So I think that they may think that the pressure's on for them to keep going, and the fact that they're just doing too much, too fast, I think it's like a runner if they run too fast, or when you're driving a car too fast around a curve, you're going to skid a little. And I think that's what they're doing now, where it's like, slow down. You don't know you need to go 110 miles an hour. But I think that I have a feeling the show is going to over-deliver. I think we'll put it over huge. I still think the show is going to draw really, really well. If it does over 1,000 people, I'll be ecstatic just based on the card alone. And then I think by the end of the month, between what we're getting with all their Mercedes stuff and that giant card on the 29th, I think that come the end of April, beginning of May, we'll be like, okay, there's the Stardom we were watching a few months ago. And I surely shouldn't say that because the Triangle Derby finals and the Supreme Fight were 2 phenomenal shows. It just seems like they may need to pump the brakes just a little bit, but that's just my opinion.
No, completely agree with you. They drew nearly 2,000 people to the Yoyogi National Stadium for the Triangle Derby final. But again, that Triangle Derby final, not only was the Triangle Derby a part of that, but you also had those championship matches. And I feel like that was a far better structure Like, you've got the semi-finals, you've got the final, but you've also got Saya Kamatani and Azumi versus Starlight Kid. That really, really, for me anyway, surprisingly good match between Julia and Mai Yukihi, which ended in a double count-out, and I should have hated, but worked really well in the context of the story they were telling. I just feel like there's just too many pay-per-views. It boils down to that again, which we've talked about a lot on this podcast. So let's get off this and let's talk about the shows.
Let's go.
So let's start with the 1st of April 2023 from the Light Cube in Utsonomiya in Tokyo in front of 508 people. I'll read through all the results and then we'll talk about all of the matches. So we open with the tag team match. The Queen's Quest team of Azumi and Hina defeated the team of Momo Kogo and Aya Sakura, with Hina pinning Sakura with the newly rechristened, I think, the Rabuka, which used to be the Muscle Power Buster. I think Rabuka is a far better name, in 10 minutes and 29 seconds. We then had a whole raft of Cinderella Tournament matches. So match 2, Cinderella Tournament, round 3 match. Mirai defeated Sayarida with the Mirror Shock in 5 minutes and 13 seconds. Match 3, Cinderella Tournament round 2 match, Xena defeated Tekla with her Gutbuster, which she's rechristened Thunderstruck, great name, in 6 minutes and 38 seconds. Match 4, Cinderella Tournament match round 3, Mai Sakurai defeated Mariah May via over the top rope in 4 minutes and 18 seconds. Match 5, Cinderella Tournament round 2 match, otherwise known as that time that Matt's heart died. Natsukatora defeated Tam Nakano via over the top rope, 6 minutes and 34 seconds. Match 6, and my pick for match of the weekend, Cinderella Tournament round 2 match, Saki Kashima defeated Syuri with the Kishikasai in 6 minutes and 21 seconds. 6-woman tag, Julia Himika and Maika defeated Amisori, Lady C, and Yuna Mizumori, with Maika locking in the Kata Hijime in 9 minutes and 37 seconds, with Lady C passing out. Match 8, the semi-main event, was a 6-woman tag team match. The Cosmic Angels team of Natsupoi, Mina Shirakawa, and Waka Tsukiyama defeated the Queen's Quest team of Utami Hayashishita, Saya Kamatani, and Miyu Amasaki, with Natsupoi getting the win over Mia with the Ferial Gift in 11 minutes and 27 seconds. And then in the main event, an 8-woman tag team match, the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki Koguma, and Hanan defeated the Ueda tag team of Momo Watanabe, Starlight Kid, Ruaka, and Rina, with Hanan pinning her sister Rina with the backdrop driver in 16 minutes and 3 seconds. So a couple of things I want to talk about, Matt, in relation to this card. All of the Cinderella matches offered something different, which I really, really like about this tournament. I thought Mirai and Saya Ida, I loved that match. I want to see them have a 15-minute singles match, because honestly, it was just like two refrigerators banging into each other, neither of them wanting to give any sort of quarter at all. And there was one great moment where they were on their knees, lariating each other, just hitting each other and hitting each other and hitting each other. And Sayarida is getting up, keeps getting up. So Mirai hits her. And as she gets up, Mirai anticipates it and beheads her with a lariat. It was so good. And my only real criticism of this match is just the finish sort of came out of nowhere. That's my only criticism, and that it only went 5 minutes. I really want to see these two in a singles match, Matt.
Yeah, I see your point. One match only went 5 minutes, but was like, don't blink. I see your point with the finish, but at the same time, I like it because it was like lariat. Mirai probably has one of, if not the best lariats in all of Stardom. Saida is not far behind, and we sing Saida's praises on the show all the time. She's so criminally underrated, and that's just not a fault of the booking. It's just the roster is one of the most stacked rosters in the history of wrestling. But so what I'm trying to get at, so Saida decides, I'm going to try to go lariat for lariat with Mirai, and she holds her own, and she gets caught. Mirai, it's like, if anybody knows how to counter lariat, it's me. Oh, by the way, I have a wrist. I have this thing called the double wrist lock I know how to use. So I like the psychology there. Yeah, 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. I would absolutely love it. But yeah, this was my favorite Cinderella match of that night. As much as you said it was your favorite match. So let's talk about it. Sherry and Saki Kashima. So why, other than the fact that Sherry had to go all the way into the locker room to drag poor Saki Kashima out of out into the ring like a scene in a horror movie, why was it your favorite match? Was this because of the shenanigans?
Honestly, Saki Kashima is the funniest person on this entire roster, and she's so effortlessly funny as well. Like with Goki Can Death or Fuki Can Death or Billy Can Death or whatever she comes out as in the Yokohama Rumble, there's a shtick, you know. Same with Koguma. Koguma, who is naturally funny, however, there is a shtick to it. With Saki, it's very much a read the moment, and that's what makes it funny, because she reacts to the moment. And this match with Syuri, like, she's done this I'm scared of Syuri stuff before, but it was a different take on it. Like, there was one point where Syuri was sort of in the ropes on the outside. She was balancing on the apron, and she came up, like, did this big crunch and sat up. And Saki just slapped her, like, out of instinct, and then realised what she'd done and started apologising and, like, begging her off and stuff, which was really funny. It was genuine fear. And just the way that Saki, for, like, the first 3 or 4 minutes of this match, just wanted nothing at all to do with Syuri and was just running the ropes without actually throwing a move because she just wanted to run away. And just, like, it was effortlessly funny. It was something completely different to what we've seen in the other matches, but it didn't feel tired and sort of overused. I thought it was genuinely funny. I think Syuri, when she's got someone like that, she's such a good straight person as well. Like, she plays the straight person to the cowardly and comically terrified heel really, really well. Like when Saki's pumping her full of that spray, whatever it is, and sort of just the way that Syuri's sort of like, what are you doing? And the audience is laughing. And it makes perfect sense for Saki to win this. Of course it does. You know, she wins with a roll-up. Perfect story to, you know, I'm terrified of this person. I want nothing to do with them. I'll roll them up while I can and then run the hell away. Honestly, it was a great story. It went 6 minutes. I loved it. Honestly, it was my match of this night, definitely.
The one thing too is, as much as we've been kind of a little down on the booking of this tournament, what that does is Saki beats Sherry, and you're like, that stinks. Everybody loves Sherry. Saki cheats in like 19 different ways to get the win. And then it makes Waka's pop even bigger at Korakuen for when she beats her. Like, you got your up and coming from someone who lost like 170 matches in a row. So I like the booking in that end is absolute genius. But one of the great things Stardom does is not just have great shows, is how they use their other platforms, like their social media and their YouTube channel, to get things over. For example, once Shuri won her second round match, once she won against defeated Tomoka, and they showed backstage pictures. It was on, I believe, Saki's Twitter, and I believe on the We Are Stardom Twitter, that she was so upset that she had to wrestle Shiri again. There's a picture of her crying in the corner. There's a picture of her laying down in the fetal position crying. And I'm like, that's just, and you know, of course everybody's retweeting because it's so funny. And like I said, they do a great job with that, even especially with Saki. Like when Saki and I forgot to mention this on the show like 2 months ago, and I'll briefly mention it, but on the YouTube channel, when Saki won that roulette gauntlet thing, after she was declared the winner, Mayu was outside by the curtain and looked at the camera and stuck her tongue out and put 2 thumbs down and walked away. And I thought it was something that took 3 seconds and just added to like, oh really? Her? She won? I hate her. And then walked away. And I think, you know, I love doing the podcast for a zillion different reasons. And I think it just makes me better doing the podcast, getting out more information. And the fact that I try to watch everything they do on their YouTube channel and try to keep up to date on stuff on social media, where it makes me enjoy Stardom even more, especially the stuff with Saki Kashima. But yeah, I thought this was hilarious. Like when Saki, I'm like, why is Shiri coming out first? This makes no sense. She's the big baby face. She's the former, you know, World of Stardom champion. And then it was like 7 seconds into Saki's team, like, oh, I know where this is going. And the fact that Shiri waited, it seemed like forever to get her, which just added to it. And then she went back into the curtain. Like, if you were to probably take actual ring time, versus actual, like them trying to actually get the match started. I think it took longer to get the match started than ring time, but it worked absolutely perfect for these two. But yeah, I thought it was something completely different. I just wanted to go to the Xena Tekla match real quick. You asked me last week, Xena had that 3 or 4 minutes match with Hina. I've never seen her wrestle before. You asked my opinion. I said it wasn't enough for me to give an opinion on these two shows that we're going to review. I thought she was fantastic. She seems very comfortable. She seems to fit in pretty well with the Club Venus. The dancing thing, yay or nay, whatever. But as far as like the wrestling in ring work, the way that she kind of counters off what Mina and Mariah May are kind of doing on the outside of the ring, I think she's a perfect fit. I'm a big fan of her just in this weekend. So it's another new face that I've never seen before that Stardom is putting on their already loaded roster. So, yeah, I thought she was really good here, really good with her match. I was again shocked to see her get the win over Tekla because I think after that first round, we're like, maybe Tekla makes a run. Nope, she gets she gets bounced. But no, I really liked. I really like what Xena. I think she's going to fit into the Stardom roster really well. And I guess I gotta touch upon it, buddy. We gotta talk about Tor and Tam. I was so sure that Tam was gonna win. I was literally on the edge of my seat, and how I had to watch these matches because Friday night, my nephew was in a play. So by the time I got home on Friday night, the main event of the Ring of Honor show, Eddie Kingston and Claudio was on. So I didn't get to watch the Ring of Honor show until Saturday morning. And as I was watching it, my phone was going off. A whole bunch of people were tweeting at me saying, "Hey, a lot of the matches are up on for the Cinderella." So I had to watch these matches from the Cinderella on my laptop while Supercard Honor was on my main TV. So but once this match was going, I literally stopped because I was like, what if Tam lose? I'm like, no, there's no way. They got to put Tam through. And I was on the edge of my seat. And they did the tease. They did a great job. They did the tease where Tam looked like she was going to go over the top rope, and all of Cosmic Angels caught her and threw her back on. Now, usually I hate that. I'm like, oh, that's cheap. I'm like, all right, it's Tam. We let her go with one. And then Tor's like, no, I'm just going to gorilla press her off the second rope onto everybody. So as much as I was, really was hoping for a Tam win here, I thought the match was fantastic, and I thought these two had great chemistry. And I would love to see these two run it back in like a 11 minute match where there's a clear-cut winner without any over-the-top rope stuff. But I thought that was really good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't a bad match at all, and I quite enjoyed the sort of stuff on the apron when that's Couture, like the DVD and stuff. And obviously, it was one of many matches that started with outside brawling over the 2 days. But overall, I thought it was a really good match. The one that I thought was a little bit disappointing, and it was the only Cinderella match of the 2 nights that I was a little bit disappointed with, was Mai Sakurai and Mariah May. And it wasn't necessarily anything either woman did. I mean, they were only given 4 minutes. And it is worth saying as well that the time limit was extended to 15 minutes in the second, third, and quarterfinals. No match was in danger of getting anywhere near that. But I don't know. It felt a little bit clunky. I don't feel like Mariah May's done brilliantly since she's been on the Stardom roster. And so has Mai Sakurai. Massively improved. Sometimes you just get two people who don't gel. And for me, I don't think these two gelled particularly well, Matt. Now, again, you might have a completely different opinion to me, but for me, there was something off about this match. And then again, I know it was only 4 minutes, but what did you think?
I see your point there, good sir. I respectfully disagree with you. I think they started out real well with them kicking each other in the face and then the German suplexes. I think that, maybe it was again only 4 minutes. I actually had it 3.25 stars. I like the way that they did the finish with Mariah May was trying to go for like the head scissors and maybe got a little bit too overconfident, and Mai Sakurai being in Stardom a little bit longer and being coached by Julia. That's kind of the gimmick they've been going with for the last year that she's been under Julia's tutelage, so she's able to outsmart her. I kind of like that little story there, and but I do like the way that both these ladies are improving. Obviously, Mai Sakurai, we talk all the time. Mariah May's only been Stardom just for a little bit, and you can just see where she's improving leaps and bounds. So, that's I see your point, but maybe if they had 3 or 4 more minutes, they might have been able to stretch it out. So I see your point. Respectfully disagree with you, though, sir.
That's absolutely fine. That's what this podcast's all about. what do you think about her ladyship then, May Sakurai? May JF, if I dare. Obviously, she then insulted everyone in the venue. By...
Oh no, that was the next night. That was the Corkin show.
No, it wasn't.
She did it both nights?
She did both nights, yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think because I had Supercard Honor on. I think I went to the other. So she insulted people both nights, huh?
She definitely insulted people on this first night because she was talking about what they were going to go and eat, and then she said that those commoners only deserved. Oh, was it gyoko? I think the food was gyoko. I'm sure someone will correct me. And she said, you only deserve frozen gyoko from the supermarket, but me, I'm going to have gold leaf gyoko, and then walked off. It was dampened slightly by the fact that she mispronounced Utsonomiya, which is rich coming from me that mispronounces everything. But she did acknowledge that and apologise. It was a decent promo, to be fair. But it seems that we are going for a very snooty and sort of condescending heel character, which, to be fair, okay, yeah, do it, that's fine, because when you've got Waka, who is a very fighting from below babyface, I don't think May sort of occupies the same place as Waka as well. So I think a convoluted heel works very well. She doesn't wrestle like a heel, though, does she?
No, I mean, maybe she will, maybe after the Cinderella. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I know she cut the one. Again, I was kind of trying to go through two shows. And I know, obviously, the Corkin show, she basically said that and we'll get into it, basically saying that you're going to go over to the Tokyo Dome Hotel and have lunch. And I can imagine me and you being in the crowd for that. And then you tap me on the shoulder saying, hey, Matt, do you want to? That sounds like a good idea. I'm like, yeah, let's go to the Tokyo Dome Hotel and have some lunch. Thanks, May Sakurai. I appreciate the. I wonder if that was a cheap plug. I wonder if the people at the Tokyo Dome Hotel were like, hey, business is down. Maybe if we throw May Sakurai a free meal, a $50 gift card, maybe she'll give her a little plug at the Stardom show in front of 1,200 people. I don't know.
Maybe.
That's just good synergy.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. There's not a chance that's what it was. But I like your thinking, good sir.
I'm gonna believe that one. Hey, buddy, it's all about synergy, my man. I love Stardom and good food. Let me tell you.
And then, obviously, we had Tam versus Natsukatora. So our quarterfinals, would be Saki versus Waka Tsukiyama, Mirai versus Inami, Sori versus Natsukatora, and Mai Sakurai versus Momo Watanabe, which would happen the next night in Korakuen. But before we nip over to Korakuen Hall, what about these three matches at the end, these multi-woman tag matches? Now, I know for a fact that you will have enjoyed the main event, but what about the other two?
I thought they were both really good. You have Julia, Mike, and Himika. I thought, you had it was kind of a weird team with Yuna, Lady C, and Ami Sori, but it's always nice to see Julia, Mike, and Himika, which might be the last time we see those three together. I thought that match was really good. I liked how Lady C did not tap out, as you alluded to earlier. She passed out, so keeping the C strong, buddy. And also, I do, as much as I like the co-main event with Miyu, Utami, and Saya versus the Cosmic Angels team of Natsupoi, Waka, and Mina. Is it just me, Rob, or am I wrong? That is weird when you hear the Cosmic Angels theme. There is no dancing because they do not dance not unless Tam is there. I don't know if Tam is just like, look, I'm not there. You don't have privilege to dance. But just to me, when you hear that, ladies and gentlemen, may I have you? I'm expecting a big dance and just like the three of them kind of just walking out. That just seemed weird to me. However, the match was great.
It still seems weird to me that it's Unagi and Mina on the the new sort of on the new music. Really weird because obviously Unagi hasn't been there in a while and Mina's on the way out, so seems very odd. But yeah, I do see what you mean. It's obviously that's a very a stylistic choice, obviously with Meltier. But yeah, I enjoyed all three of these matches that weren't the Cinderella Tournament matches. I thought that Julia, Himika, and Maika versus Amisori, Lady C, and Yuna Mizumori was great. Maika, proper ragdolling Lady C as well with that Kata Hijime. She held nothing back. It's no wonder Lady C passed out. It was probably legit.
I mean, she was shooting on her. So before we wrap this show up there, Mr. Goodwin, who's the person that got the pinfall in the main event?
And do you know what? Do you know what made me laugh even more?
you knew this. You knew I was setting you up for this.
Absolutely. But what made me laugh was at the end, even Mayu Iwatani was rocking out to this theme, singing along. Oh, she knew all the words. Oh, she was proper giving it some. And rightly so, because it is an absolutely bombastic theme. Maybe that's what we need to change the Stardom Cast intro to. Let us know in the comments if that's what we should change it to. Are you ready?
We go from are you ready for the
STARDOM cast, Stardom Cast.
And you should do it in a Karma voice. Oh boy, it's got off the rails. Podcast got off the rails. Death metal rap, good one.
Just sounds like the Tekla theme. Let's move on to Korakuen Hall then. The next day, Sunday the 2nd of April 2023, in front of a sellout 1,295 people. As I alluded to, this is the third largest post-pandemic crowd Stardom have pulled into Korakuen Hall, which was beaten out by 2 nights at the 5-Star Grand Prix last year, where they drew over 1,500. So a good number for Stardom, and they seem to be trending up, which is a good thing. So let's do what I did before, and we'll go through those results. So in terms of, where are we? I'm looking at my notes. Where are we? There we go. Singles match. Maika defeated Aya Sakura with the Sazanka in 6 minutes and 41 seconds. We then had a tag team gauntlet match. So get ready. We had Hanako and Syuri defeating Mirai May and Mina Shirakawa, Julia and Tekla, Hina and Rina, Ruaka and Starlight Kid, Lady C and Miyu Amasaki, Hanan and Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki and Sayurida, Koguma and Momokogo, Tam Nakano, and Yuna Mizumori. Some very sort of thrown together teams there, but even so, that lasted 22 minutes and 27 seconds, with Syuri getting the win with the White Tiger. We then had our Cinderella Tournament quarterfinals. Waka Tsukiyama defeating Saki Kashima with a roll-up in 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Mirai defeating Xena with a package hold in 6 minutes and 23 seconds. Amisori defeating Natsukatora by getting her over the top rope in 4 minutes and 39 seconds. Mei Sakurai defeating Momo Watanabe via over the top rope in 4 minutes and 58 seconds. In the semi-main event, the Himika Road tag team match, Kakeru Sakaguchi and Natsupoi versus Himika and Miyuki Takase.
Say it with confidence.
Takase ended in a 15-minute time limit draw. I will just say that I know I was calling her Sho Sakaguchi. I have now been informed that Sho Sakaguchi is a Google Translate issue. It is Kakeru, so there you go. And finally, match 8, our main event, an Artist of Stardom Championship match. Prominence defeating the Queen's Quest team of Utami Hayashishita, Sayaka Kamatani, and Azumi, successfully retaining on their second title defense, with Suzu Suzuki pinning Utami with a rolling German suplex in 15 minutes and 53 seconds. So, Matt, let's talk first about the Cinderella Tournament quarterfinals. So obviously we know our Final Four because we talked about it at length at the start. I was a big fan here of the Xena and Mirai match. I thought it was easily the best Cinderella tournament. Like, legitimately, obviously, I know I wax lyrical about how funny I found the Saki and Syuri match, but from an in-ring standpoint, Mirai versus Xena was probably my favourite match. I thought Xena showed off a lot more athleticism in this match. Some of those kicks to Mirai when she was on the apron, very, very athletic for a woman of her height. I thought very, very, very impressive. I thought they had really good chemistry. And overall, like I say, probably the most solid in-ring encounter. I really enjoyed the Waka and Saki match because it was a completely different Saki Kashima to the one that took on Syuri. This was a very overconfident and cocky Saki who has beaten Waka countless times and knew in her head that she would beat her again. Literally kicking 7 shades out of her, not giving it a second's thought, and then literally got rolled up and ended up losing in 4 minutes. I thought that was a really good story. Waka got very little offense in. She managed to do the hip attack, but apart from that, she pretty much ate Saki kicks, and that was about it. And I quite enjoyed that, Matt.
Yeah, it was really good psychology. Like I said before, the fact that Saki beat Sherry in such a, tried to cheat 19 times really puts a lot more heat going on in this match. And everybody loves Waka. It is literally the ultimate Cinderella story. So maybe this whole tournament, that's what it's all built upon, and we're just kind of overlooking it. I mean, we'll see here, in the upcoming weeks. But yeah, I think the two best matches from these two shows, at least from the Cinderella point, is Mirai Saida and Mirai versus Xena. So Xena, I'm very impressed with Saida. We love. What does that speak about Mirai? I mean, she's just a top tier worker. She really, really is. But yeah, Xena really, really impressed me. And like I said before, that I'm really excited to see what she does. With a Saida, with a match with versus Sherry, versus a match with the Momo Watanabe, Utami match. So. I mean, you already had a stacked roster, and we always have some really tasty, intriguing matchups. And now that you're putting a Xena in there, who I'm already impressed with, and she's going to be giving more time, so it's going to be exciting to see where they go with her from there. I liked how Tora and Tora body pressed Pam out to win. Now, I didn't like that. Don't get me wrong, but I liked how Ami basically did the same thing to her to eliminate her, and we did have two jumpstart matches. With obviously Tora jumpstarting Ami Sourei because that's the Uedo type thing to do. And then May Sakurai jump-starting Momo, basically giving a taste of her own medicine, and Momo taking the bat and then going batter up on Momo Watanabe. I mean, I guess if you have one of the heaviest hitters in the history of the company and that now cheats, I guess that's the best way to take her out. And that's basically kind of what she did. So it's like, man, we're seeing a very, very super aggressive May Sakurai, not only in the ring, but out of the ring, and I guess now on the microphone, Rob.
I mean, absolutely. She's been throwing barbs like all weekend, and then she was throwing shots with that baseball. The one that she hit, though, like, so obviously, as she's taken this baseball bat off Momo's managed to duck underneath it the first two times. And then the time that May connects, she proper clobbers Momo straight in the chin with it. Like, I know it's not a real baseball bat, but that must have hurt, at least shocked her, because May did plop her straight in the chin with it. Yeah, I mean, it was a nice sort of disparity between sort of the calm and collected match that May sort of started having with Mirai May before it broke down. And then you've got the brawl in this match, and then you had the brawl with the Tora and Amisori match. I quite liked the Natsuko Tora and Amisori match simply because of how much Tora attempted to throw at Amisori, especially when she was on the apron. And Amisori, like, one of the things that I know you don't like is, especially for eliminations, where someone no-sells the move and gets back up again and just throws that person off as though nothing happened. Whereas here, Amisori is literally clinging onto the ropes for dear life as Natsuko Tora hits her with the DVD, with senton after senton after senton, then tries to get her up to the top rope to hit a DVD. And I thought that was really good. It was a good little story, especially as all of these matches, I think, if you put them all together, I think it only lasted 20 minutes. So overall, what were your thoughts of all four matches, as short as they were?
No, I thoroughly enjoyed them. I really, really did. Like I said, the Xena versus Mirai was my favorite. And they all stood out to be something different. You have, again, kind of May Sakurai taking a much more vicious approach to things. You had Tora and Amisori. They started brawling in the back. All of a sudden, you just see this commotion happening in Korakuen Hall. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So that was a little different there. Again, you kind of just have Waka just eating strike after strike after strike on Saki Cashman, and she gets rolled up, which is kind of weird because that's kind of what Saki does. She takes a beating and then she rolls you up with a Kishi Kazai. So it's like, haha, taste of your own medicine. So I thought I thought all four matches were good. But I'd like to just touch upon the tag gauntlet real quick, if you don't mind there, good sir.
Of course.
You can kind of look at this like, it's kind of a throwaway. It's kind of get everybody on the show. It's kind of to get everybody out there in front of Korakuen Hall so they can see, their Mayus and their Tams or whatever. I thought Mayu and Hanan, I think they might have been here the longest, I thought they were great as a team. Would not mind seeing them have a run going for the Goddess of Stardom Championship, or even them as a tag team in a future Goddess of Stardom Championship, because I thought they were great here. Again, this is kind of be looked at as a throwaway, but I guess nobody told that to Tam and Julia because you know where I'm going here because Tam's team gets they get the win over Mayu and Lady C. I'm sorry, over Mayu and Hannah, and then all of a sudden Julia comes out and like, oh geez, are they gonna really? I mean, it's Korakuen Hall. They keep heating this up, so they do the over the top rope double elimination. And so now you have to have the next two teams come out. So you have four teams that are coming out, four wrestlers that are coming out in moments, and these two just start throwing each other through chairs all through Korakuen Hall. It's like, yeah, I guess that was their assignment. They got to the back, and Ratio guy was like, okay, here's what's going to happen. Tam, you're going to win in a roll-up. Drew's going to come out. Whatever you want to do, double the over-the-top rope elimination, and then do something a little bit more to heat up your match going to Yokohama. Oh, we're already outside. We may as well throw each other through chairs. Like, holy gee. It's like, or either that or they like, hey, Hazuki's going to produce your segment. Like, oh, yeah, tag gauntlet. Yeah, just hurt each other as much as possible. All right, you guys got it. Like, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was great. Really, it was great fun. You had the comedy bits, obviously, with Yuna Mizumori and Mayu, but then you had the good story beats and a little bit more build because obviously this happened the day before the press conference, and this sort of just added a little bit more fuel to the fire to what will be an absolutely brutal press conference. These last two matches then. So let's start with the Himika Retirement Road tag match. As soon as it went over 10 minutes, I was like, this is going to a 15-minute draw. However, didn't mind at all. Thoroughly enjoyed this match, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew next to nothing about Takase and Sakucha. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. That's usually that for you. Obviously know a lot about Himika and Natsupoi, but I thought both were great, especially Sakucha's, or the way she works her arm into the arm bars. Very, very shoot style, which I absolutely love. I thought all this stuff was great. I thought all four women really, really got a great opportunity to shine. Would not mind seeing these other two ladies that are not part of the Stardom roster be sprinkled back in from time to time because I thought they were all great. Yeah, once they got back to about 10 minutes and you hear the announcer counting down the time, like, yeah, this is going to a time limit draw, which I thought the main event was going to go to a time limit draw. I'm like, whatever, I'll take that, not a problem. Obviously, it didn't. We'll get into it, but I liked how they were building towards the finish. Himika hits the JP coaster on Takucha. She gets a 2 count, and the crowd who was into it, then they start getting really, really hot because they know they have to sprint towards the finish. And how they sprint to the finish, everybody starts throwing lariats. And Natsupoi's hitting spin kicks. And it's like they're really, whatever's left in the gas tank, they have these last 30, 40 seconds to empty it. And all four ladies empty it. I thought it was great. Again, I have no problem with time limit draws when they make sense, which Stardom does a really good job of having it make sense or not overbooking them in most of these shows. I enjoyed it. And I actually gave it 4 stars. How about you, buddy?
I gave it 3 3/4. I thought a really solid tag match, one that you're absolutely right. Most of the time, Stardom do a good job of the time limit draws, and most of the time they make sense. I thought this was another great example. I thought Natsupoi was, once again, inducted into her own little Hall of Pain because she was beaten into a pulp again. But she does it so well. She does it so well. And
I fear for her in Yokohama. We'll get into it. I fear for her in Yokohama reading the show, buddy.
Oh my God. Poor Natsupoi. She really does take an absolute beating. But to be fair, she takes it better than anybody else on the roster with the exception of Mayu. So, and then this main event, man. Like, what a match. Give me Suzu Suzuki and Utami Hayashishita in a ring for 30 minutes. Uninterrupted, because it was great. Thoroughly enjoyed this defense. I thought all 3 women on both sides had great chemistry with the other. I thought Azumi's stuff with Karumi, with Suzu Suzuki was fantastic. I thought Saya and Risa Sarah had really good chemistry, but for me, that closing stretch with Suzu Suzuki and Utami was everything I want in wrestling. I want to see them go again. And if Suzu Suzuki is in the 5-star this year, which I hope to God she is because she had a great run last year, I'd love to see her get to a final. That would be great. But to have her against Utami, singles match, no over-the-top rules, no towels on the line, just beating each other and throwing bombs, I would take that in a heartbeat.
You look at, and again, one of the many, many, many things that why I love Stardom as much as I do is how important their championships are. obviously what they've been doing with the red belt and the white belt over the past few years has just been fantastic. The high speed, you had basically the last handful of years, you've had Starlight Kid, Natsupoi, and Azumi pretty much dominate the division. Nothing wrong there. And then really Azumi dominating the division for the last year. The tag title situation has been pretty solid as well. But then you take like the artist belts, like you go from Cosmic Angels, Tam Mina, and Unagi, who had a phenomenal run. They lose it to Mai Himipoi, Micah Himika Natsupoi. They have one of the greatest runs ever. And then not only that, but like their the matches that they had fantastic matches. And then the match where they lost the belts to Momo, Starlight Kid, and Saya Kamatani, or not Saya Kamatani, Saki Kachima. What a match that would be. That was my overall tag match of the year for Stardom. So, and then they went to go have, great title defense with Hana, Koguma, and Hazuki, and then the match where they dropped the belts to, the Prominence team. And then you throw this match on it here. It just shows you, and the fact that this was the main event, the Triangle Derby finals with the belts on the line was the main event of one of the best Stardom shows ever. This goes to show you how important Stardom values the titles. And this match, I mean, no exception. I mean, it's right up there with the matches that I just made mention to. I mean, just the great Artist of Stardom Championship matches we've been getting over the last, year and a half, 2 years is just mind blowing. And yeah, this makes no exception. When you look at this match, you're like, okay, they're going to pair off in tags, they're going to pair off in singles. You're going to want to see Suzu and Saya tie it up again, and they were great. We knew we were going to get a little bit of Utami and Suzu. We actually got a lot of it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That was the best part of both of these shows, as good as the wrestling was their finish. But like, if you would have told me that, yeah, Harugi and Azumi's going to have a lengthy time in this match, is going to be awesome. I'm like, all right, I like to kind of see that, because you want to talk about a clash of styles, but that just goes to show you how great both these wrestlers are. That was fantastic. They had a nice heat on Azumi. Aphrodite had to come in and make the save. I'm all about, what you said before. Give me Utami versus Suzu Suzuki. Give me Suzu and Risa versus Aphrodite, Saya and Utami. That's a match I really want to see. All 6 of these ladies were absolutely fantastic. And then you're getting towards the closing stretch where you're like, all right, we're going to get a long stretch of Suzu versus Utami just dropping each other on their heads. And I was like, this is going to go to a time limit draw, and I have no problem with it. And then you see Suzu she hits the tequila shot, and then the German suplex combo, and I'm like, oh, Utami taking a pinfall, which is very rare, but it makes sense. They weren't gonna swap the belts. As much as I, probably more than anybody, would love to see Azumi, Sai, and Utami be the Artist of Stardom champions. Not just yet. I think it's gonna happen. Not just yet. But at the same time, Utami eating the fall here, Rob, makes sense, because what does Utami have coming up that's really big? Really not much. And that's no disparaging remark to her. Utami's fantastic. She'll be at the top of the card again very soon. But you have Azumi challenging in a 3-way for the IWGP Women's Championship match with Hazuki and Mercedes Moné, which we'll talk about here in a moment. And obviously, you have Saya and one of the big main events coming up at the Yokohama Arena show. So it makes sense for Utami to eat the fall. Not only that, but then you get Suzu Suzuki, this Prominence team, and the belts moreover by cleanly pinning one of the 4, what we call one of the 4 pillars in current Stardom in Utami. I thought the match was brilliant. The crowd was, even before the bell rang, the crowd was so into this, and it just built and built and built and built. And again, this is one of the best Artists of Stardom matches I've seen in the last 2 years. I had this baby at a solid 4.5 stars.
It is at 4.25. I thought, since Cosmic Angels had the belts, like the Artist of Stardom belts have always had a reputation of just being flung onto the hot new thing, and then sort of they are there, which is a shame. It's unfortunately absolutely true, but it's a shame. However, since Cosmic Angels took them, there's not been a terrible reign, and they've been given far more prevalence on the card, and they've benefited from that. You look at My Himipoi, their matches were fantastic. They seem to have found like a home, especially as now Stardom are running more pay-per-views. The Korakuen Hall shows have fallen down the importance order, let's say. It's still a huge venue, it's still an important moment on the Stardom calendar, but not as important as it once was. So let's use the Artist of Stardom belts to main event those shows. And I think that's really, really, really helped the prestige of the belts because, again, you're going to get fantastic matches. That run that you mentioned before from Oedetai was great. They had absolute bangers. And if you can say, yeah, ultimately, these are the 6-woman belts, they don't have a great reputation. Six-person belts very rarely do. However, you're going to get 15-minute brilliant tag team action. People start to care about the titles. I care more about these titles now than I have ever done. And that's thanks to the fact that they've been... I mean, there was a big run for Cosmic Angels. I think they held them for 291 days. Big run for My Himipoi. I think they held them for 100 and something, late hundreds. Admittedly, Oedetai didn't hold them for long. I think they won them at Fight in the Top and lost them at Dream Queendom. But even so, there wasn't many bad defenses in those 3 title runs at all. And then Prominence have had a fantastic match against God's Eye in the final of the Triangle Derby and a great match against Queen's Quest here. And that's without taking into account who they're going to be facing at Yokohama. So props to Stardom for certainly reinvigorating a title that needed it.
Yeah.
Whether it'll make people care about the Triangle Derby or not, I don't know. But even so, I think they've done a fantastic job reinvigorating these titles. So props where props are due.
Yeah, and real quick, the last part about this match, the coolest spot in the match was Utami picking up Suzu for the hijack bomb, and Suzu Suzuki basically in midair twists her body 180 and hits a picture-perfect reverse Poison Rana. Oh. I thought that was great, and then it just made sense for the finish because Suzu Suzuki compresses your neck with the tequila shot and the 2 German suplexes back to back. So her hitting those 4 big moves on Utami's neck, made sense for the finish. But I thought that was just brilliant. Great match. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, go out of your way to watch it. I'm going to watch it again because it came up literally as I was going to bed last night. I'm like, I'll watch it in the morning. So I wasn't 100% invested, but obviously I was like 90% invested. So I'm definitely going to watch it again tonight. Absolutely loved the match.
I think as well, it wasn't even that it doesn't matter. Do you know what? It doesn't matter. We've waxed lyrical about the match. Go and watch it. It is that good.
Watch it.
Obviously, this was all sort of cut short by Kairi's arrival. We'd been expecting her to announce who she was going to be wrestling or bringing along to Yokohama Arena, and it turns out that it's Natsupoi and Saori Anou, who is a freelancer, has been doing a lot in Ice Ribbon at the moment. I know she's very, very, very popular. And Matt, you may take your victory lap now, because I said it needs to be someone bigger. I didn't quite realise how over she was in Japan. So I'm more than happy to take the L there, good sir.
Well, to be fair, we both said it was going to be Io Shirai. And once I found out it wasn't, I think I texted you and I want to be the big brother, it's just the dad in me. I was like, somebody really cool. They set up another great match for Korakuen, and I just want to soften the blow. It wasn't Asuka, Meiko Satomura, or Io Shirai, but it sets up a really cool match. So I like to do that from time to time. If I know something before, like we're both excited, it's going to be Io. Everyone thought we were nuts, which you're right, we are a little crazy. Obviously it wasn't, but this obviously sets up a phenomenal Artist of Stardom title defense. And again, if you don't think that they're taking these belts seriously, the fact that one of the biggest stars in the history of the company is challenging for these belts, you got another thing coming. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And yeah, it's going to be a kick-ass match. Let's be perfectly honest. There's no point mincing words. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Anou has been in Stardom before. I think she was there till about 2017. And she was part of, I think her trial series was something called Start or something. But at the press conference, they announced that their trio's name is going to be Restart. So I think that's a callback to that. I'm sure someone will sort of fill me in on a little bit of background for that. But I'm excited. That's going to be a very, very, very good match. I do expect Prominence to retain. But,
we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. Don't give things away, buddy. Don't give things away.
I did think it was nice, though, how when Kairi came out and when Saori Anou came out and you saw Suzu Suzuki's face, just like, oh my god. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really nice. Anyway, we're gonna stop there. Short of 2 hours.
I know we're on 2 hours. Real quick, we got that big match coming up this weekend, buddy. IWGP Women's match.
We have got that match coming up. We'll be obviously reviewing it in full next week, and we'll be talking a little bit about the rest of Sakura Genesis as well. But it's an IWGP Women's Championship defense. Mercedes Moné, the champion, the second champion, in her first defense. Second defense. What am I on about? First defense in a triple threat. Hazuki and Azumi. We talked last week about how it's fifth on the card, and Gedo is not a fan of the women's wrestling, so we're not expecting a great deal of time. But again, as you pointed out last week, Matt, if you have only got 6, 7, 8 minutes, you want Hazuki and Azumi in the ring because they're two of the best high-speed wrestlers to do it.
Yeah, and Mercedes Moné's no slouch either. And she did actually, as of this morning, she did tweet or Instagram a picture out of her training in the Stardom ring. So there you have it, folks. She's going to be in Japan for the whole month, probably spending a lot of time training in the Stardom ring. So if you thought she was good now, the fact that she's going to be working out with literally the best of the best. And when it comes to three ways, that's not a match where you're like, all right, kid, I'll see you out there. We'll call it in the ring. You literally need to call everything A to Z, and I have absolutely no problem with that as long as the match is good. And I don't mean A to Z M. See what I did there?
Very good. Very good.
But I think that they're kind of just going to plan a lot of their match out, and I think it's going to be an absolute barn burner. I'm expecting at least 4.25 stars. That me and Mr. Goodwin are going to put, again, that's the match I'm definitely looking forward towards the most this holiday weekend. I fully expect Mercedes to retain. As much as I would love to see Hazuki with that belt, obviously they want to draw the most people they want to Korakuen, Yokohama Arena. And if you know anything about women's professional wrestling, one of the biggest dream matches that we've been asking for the last 3 or 4 years is Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné versus Mayu Iwatani. And let's face it, folks, we are getting it in a few weeks, and we are so lucky.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is not a chance that they would risk not selling out this venue or not selling a huge amount of tickets by not giving us Mercedes. They've literally got a dream match in the palm of their hands. They are 100% doing it. There's just no way they wouldn't. So you think 4.25? That's your ceiling.
That's why I think. Obviously, I'm hoping it goes 5. Obviously, you know, I want nothing but the best for these three ladies. But I'm assuming that's where I think my mind's going to be at. That when I watch this match early Saturday morning, because I'm probably not going to get up right when the show starts like I do for Stardom. I'll probably watch this match live, take a nap, and then maybe come back to the other matches, especially that main event with Okada and Sonata. But I'll be watching this match live. When I get done watching it and writing my review, taking my notes, that's where I'm going to be at. Again, I hope it's better. I hope they completely blow it out of the water, even more than my expectations. How about you? Where's your preconceived notion on this one, my friend?
I'm going to be positive and say 4.25. I hope they are given the time they deserve, because let's face it, again, they deserve it. They're going to blow it out of the park. We'll see. I'm less confident now. I've seen that sort of report about where Gedo is, but again, we'll see. Let's be positive. It's going to be awesome. We're getting Mercedes Moné versus Hazuki versus Azumi. It's going to be great. And also, it's a great advert for Stardom. Getting it on a big New Japan show, you can't sort of.
And the other two ladies, Rob. Yeah, I mean, let's go. I mean, Azumi and Hazuki. There's a lot of people over here in America. A lot of people that I know, friends of mine that are going to. I don't know if they're going to watch this match live, but they're eventually going to watch it. And my thing is obviously they're huge, WWE fans, and they're huge fans of Sasha Banks. I'm like, wait till you see the caliber of athletes and performers that she is going to be in the ring with. Like, it's a big opportunity, especially for them, for Azumi and Hazuki, specifically, to get more eyes on them over here in the States. So, and they're going to find out what we've known for a long time, just how damn good these two girls are.
Yeah, absolutely. Next weekend, then. So obviously, Stardom have got quite a few shows. They decided to run a show on the 8th, which is the same day as Sakura Genesis. So Stardom have got shows running, I believe, on the 8th, the 6th in Sendai, which is where we will find out who that mystery member of Club Venus is going to be. So as you are listening to this on Patreon, then you will already know. Hopefully. If you're listening to this on the free feed, you definitely will already know, but we don't. So there you go. They are in Amori on the 8th of April, in Yamagata Big Wing on the 9th, and then we did sort of go through those cards. The two cards that are that weekend, of course, is the Korakuen show from the 14th and then the Cinderella Tournament finals on the 15th. We've gone through the Cinderella Tournament finals. I'm not going to repeat myself. But in terms of Korakuen Hall, Saturday the 14th of April, the card stands thusly. Three-way match, Hina versus Hanako versus Aya Sakura. Singles match, Konami versus Waka Tsukiyama. Tag team match, the New Eras versus Ramkai Chow and Yuna Mizumori. Tag team match, Meltier versus Mei Sakurai and Tekla. So, Matt, you'll get the entrance. 12-woman elimination tag team match, Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki, Koguma Hanan, Sayuri and Momo Kogo taking on Natsuka Tora, Ruaka, Rina, Momo Watanabe, Fukiken Death making her return, and Starlight Kid.
We know the finish.
Absolutely. Roll up. It's an elimination match, so she'll definitely get at least one elimination with the roll up, with the O'Connor roll. 8-woman tag team match, Utami Hayashishita, Saya Kamatani, Lady C and Miyu Amasaki taking on Mina Shirakawa, Mariah Maizena, and that mystery woman. And then our final two matches, High Speed Championship match, Azumi the champion taking on Saki Kashima, and the last ride for Maika and Himika taking on ALK in what will presumably be the main event and also be an absolutely crushing match, Matt.
All those cards just sound fantastic. They really, really do. I mean, Stardom does a great job on these, quote unquote road to shows. I mean, I'm sitting here again. I talk all the time and wax literally about how stacked their roster is, and everybody really just needs to. On these shows, they really try to one up each other, and that's just iron sharpens iron, and it's a reason why I don't know why people don't subscribe to Stardom World and see this stuff for $7 a month, because it's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, just those matches you were running down, those are absolute barn burner, matches. I'm really excited to see the basically the Club Venus team versus the Queen's Quest team. That sounds really good. And even Olive Widow Tai versus All of Stars. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. My early prediction is Hanan is the sole survivor. I'm betting with my heart on that one. But all these shows sound absolutely fantastic. And this is going to be just a banner month for Stardom. This is really going to be probably one of the busiest and probably most important months in the history of the company. And they're doing it right by giving us a lot of these stacked shows.
Yeah, absolutely. So next week we will go through that IWGP Women's Championship match from Sakura Genesis. We'll be going through the Cinderella Tournament finals and we'll be giving you our winners as we preview that card. We'll also talk about those shows from the 6th, the 8th, and the 9th as we head, as Matt said, into perhaps the busiest period in Stardom's calendar. But yes, thank you so much for listening, guys. We really, really, really do appreciate it. All of your support is absolutely fantastic. And again, any support is amazing. Thank you. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. If you can leave us a 5-star review, that greatly helps us out on whatever app you are on. We're getting loads on Spotify, so thank you. We cannot thank you enough. Even more on Apple Podcasts would be great as well. If you want to join the Patreon, patreon.com/the Stardom Cast. Of course, it's Insane April, so we're all Kairi related over there on Patreon at the moment. And of course, the brand new Patreon will launch on the 1st of May. On social media, find us at the Stardom Cast. If you want to talk to me, you can find me at Real Rob Goodwin. Matt, where can they find you? And sign us off, good sir.
Before I give all the fancy plugs to my social medias, I just want to wish everybody a happy Easter. If you do celebrate it, please enjoy your time with your family. Please be safe if you're traveling anywhere. I will be enjoying my time with my family, as Easter is one of my favorite holidays. So please enjoy your time. Before I give my plugs, I also want to give a quick shout out to the Longbox Heroes podcast, as they gave us a shout out on their podcast today. So if you're a fan of comic book and comic book podcasts, that is my go-to. I listen to them every Wednesday morning when their podcast drops. So thanks to Joe and Todd over at Longbox Hero for giving us a shout out on their podcast, and I figured I would just return the favor. So yeah, again, if you are a fan of comic book and comic book podcasts, that is, in my opinion, hands down the best one to listen to. So again, thanks Todd and Joe for the shout out on your show this week. If you want to get a hold of me, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. If you want to shoot me an email, that's fine as well. The StardomCast22@gmail.com is the email address for that. Once again, folks, we cannot say thank you enough for all the support. Every week when I check the numbers on social media, the podcasts are just growing and growing, and that's all because of you. Like I said, folks, if you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me, because it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast, because we're almost together and everybody's different. Everybody's special.